The room fell silent as the small yet unyielding figure of Harriet Tubman stepped forward, her presence commanding more power than the grand hall could contain. Every eye locked on her, as if history itself had walked into the room wrapped in a simple shawl, carrying the echoes of 1,000 footsteps through the night. There was something in her eyes, something fierce and eternal, like a storm held behind still water. It was not the look of someone who had survived slavery. It was the look of someone who had defied it. She stood still for a moment, letting the silence swell around her, until it seemed like the walls themselves leaned closer to listen. The wooden floor creaked under her feet, and the soft rustle of her shawl felt like the turning of a page in a sacred book. When she finally opened her mouth, her voice was quiet, yet every word struck like a bell. "I was not supposed to be here," she said. "I was supposed to be a shadow, forgotten. But shadows learn to follow the light." The audience held its breath, caught between awe and disbelief. Harriet's voice carried the weight of centuries of silence, broken all at once. "They told me I was born to serve," she said, her words cutting through the air like a blade. "They told me my hands were made for chains and my back for burdens. They told me freedom was not for people like me. But my soul knew better. My soul knew it was born to fly." She closed her eyes for a moment, as if remembering the sound of distant hounds and the whisper of leaves under her feet. "The first night I ran, I felt the stars watching," she said softly. "I felt them cheering me on like old friends waiting at the end of the road. My heart beat louder than the dogs, and my faith ran faster than my fear. That was the night I learned something I never forgot. That freedom is not given. It is taken." A murmur rippled through the crowd as her words wrapped around them like fire. She opened her eyes and they burned like embers. "They said we were property," she went on, her tone rising like a storm. "But how can a soul be owned? How can a song be chained or a dream be sold? They could break our bodies, but they could not break the knowing inside us that we were meant for more than dust and sorrow. I walked the road to freedom," she said, "and I walked it with nothing but the sound of my own heartbeat to guide me. I crossed rivers in the dark and swamps that swallowed the moonlight. I walked with the breath of death on my neck and the cry of hope in my chest. And when I reached the land where the chains could not follow me, I did not rest. I turned around, because freedom is not a place you reach. It is a fire you carry back." The room was still now, but not empty stillness. It was the stillness of lightning before it strikes. Harriet's voice deepened with memory and pain. "I went back for my brothers, my sisters, my people. I went back through the dark when my body was too tired to move and my soul too scarred to hope. I went back because I could not be free while they were not. Because no one is free until everyone is free. They called me Moses," she said with a bitter smile, "but I was just a woman who could not sleep while others were chained. I had nothing, no riches, no power, just the truth. And the truth is stronger than chains. The truth is that every soul is born free, even if the world forgets it. I carried that truth in my heart like a lantern through the night." Her words struck like thunder now, and the crowd seemed to lean forward as one. They threatened me. They hunted me. They put prices on my head. But what is gold to a woman who has tasted freedom? What is fear to a heart that has already walked through death? I would have gone back 100 more times if it meant one more soul could wake to the sunrise without chains. She paused, and the silence hummed like a living thing. "Freedom," she said, "is not safe. It is not easy. It is not gentle. Freedom is the cry of the soul when it has been silent too long. It is the breaking of chains, the shattering of walls, the rising of hope in the ashes. Freedom is fierce, and once you have tasted it, you will never crawl again." Her hands clenched at her sides, trembling not from fear, but from the weight of the memories she carried. "I saw mothers hold their children for the first time without fear of losing them," she whispered. "I saw men stand tall who had only ever known the ground. I saw tears turn to laughter under the stars. That is what I fought for. That is what I bled for. Not glory, not praise, just the right to be human. She lifted her gaze like a banner. I was not born a hero, she said. I was born a slave. But I chose something different. I chose to run. I chose to fight. I chose to believe the whisper in my heart that said I was more than what they told me I was. And I will tell you now what I told myself in the dark. You are not what they say you are. You are what you dare to become. The crowd seemed spellbound, their hearts beating in time with hers. I tell you this because the world still builds chains, she said, her voice cracking but her spirit unbroken. They may not be made of iron, but they are heavy just the same. Chains of fear, chains of doubt, chains of silence, and you must break them. You must. Because if you do not, you will forget who you are, and forgetting is the first kind of death. Her breath caught, but her voice rose again like a hymn. Do not wait for someone to hand you your freedom. They never will. Take it. Take it with shaking hands if you must, but take it. And when you have it, do not keep it for yourself. Go back. Go back for the ones still in the dark. Carry the fire to them as I did. That is how freedom lives on. She let the words hang there, burning in the air like stars. Then she said softer now, as if speaking only to each heart in the room, I have seen what a single soul can do when it refuses to bow. I have seen how one spark can burn down an empire of chains. Do not think you are too small. I was small. I was nothing. But I became everything they feared because I would not stop. The audience seemed to lean closer, as if her voice had become the only sound in the world. Freedom is not a gift, she said. It is a birthright, and birthrights are not granted. They are claimed. I claimed mine in the dark with the hounds behind me and the stars before me. And I will tell you this, when you claim your freedom, the world will tremble. Let it tremble. She straightened her back as if she carried the weight of every soul she had ever freed. I carried them, she said quietly. Every one of them. In my arms, in my heart, in my prayers. I carried their dreams when they could not dream. I carried their hope when they could not hope. And when they walked into the dawn with the sun on their faces, I knew it was worth everything. Her voice thickened with emotion but never faltered. Do not forget them, she said. Do not forget the ones who bled so you could stand. You walk on the bones of the brave, live worthy of their pain. Honor them with your courage. Honor them with your voice. Honor them by refusing to be silent. Because silence is the grave where freedom dies. And if fear finds you, she said, her voice trembling but fierce, tell it what I told it. You do not own me. You cannot stop me. You will not win. Say it until your heart believes it and your feet move forward on their own. Say it until the chains fall, because they will. They must. No chain is stronger than a soul that refuses to stay bound. She took a long breath and her eyes shone like firelight on water. I am standing here because I chose freedom over fear. Because I chose to run when they said stay. Because I chose to fight when they said kneel. And if I could do it with nothing but faith and bare feet, then so can you. So must you. The world is waiting for you to rise. The room was trembling now, not with sound, but with the force of her spirit as it passed from her into every heart. Her words seemed to hum in the air like the promise of thunder just beyond the horizon. And Harriet stood there small but unshaken, wrapped not in grandeur but in truth. And every soul in the room knew they were witnessing something eternal. She stood still for a long moment after the storm of her words faded, and the hall seemed to hold its breath around her. Harriet Tubman's gaze swept the room like sunlight, searching every face as if weighing their hearts. When she finally spoke again, her voice was quieter yet more powerful, as though it came not from her lungs but from the earth itself. I do not speak, so you can admire me. She said, I speak so you can remember that you were born to be free. Not someday, not when the world allows it, but now. Her words slipped into the air like sparks, and the crowd seemed drawn toward her without moving. Freedom is not a place on a map, she said. It is not a law or a paper or a promise. It is the choice you make when the world tells you to bow and you stand instead. It is the moment you decide that your life belongs to you and no one else. That is what I chased. Not safety, not comfort. Just the right to belong to myself. Her eyes softened as if she were looking through time at a younger version of herself running under the stars. I remember the first night I was called by my name in freedom, she whispered. No chains, no whip cracking in the dark. Just my name on the wind. I cried because I had carried silence so long I forgot how heavy it was. Freedom is the first breath you take that does not taste of fear. It is the sound of your own name when it no longer means property. Her voice sharpened like steel drawn from fire. Slavery tried to erase us. It tried to grind our names into dust and scatter them across fields we were forced to till. But it failed. It failed because we carried our names in our hearts. It failed because our mothers sang to us when no one listened, and our fathers prayed for us when no one cared. It failed because our spirits were older than the chains and stronger than the whips. She looked out at the crowd, her words landing like stones, building something invisible. I saw what chains could do to a body, she said. I saw backs bend until they broke and eyes go hollow like houses with no fire inside. But I also saw what freedom could do to a soul. I saw broken men stand like mountains. I saw weary women walk like queens. I saw children who only knew fear laugh in the sunlight. That is what freedom does. It rebuilds what chains destroy. Do not be fooled, she said, her voice trembling but fierce. Chains still exist. Some are made of iron, some are made of fear, some are made of silence, some are made of doubt. They are heavier than they look. They whisper that you are small, that you are powerless. But they are wrong. You are not powerless. You are waiting to rise. She drew in a deep breath, and the hall seemed to draw it with her. I was afraid every time I ran, she admitted. Afraid of the dogs, afraid of the guns, afraid of dying before I could taste freedom. But I ran anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that freedom matters more. It is the choice to walk while your heart screams to stop. That is how the world changes, not with easy steps, with trembling ones. Her words rose like a tide, and the audience rose with them, though none had moved. They called me rebel, outlaw, criminal, she said. I did not care, because I knew what I was. I was free. And when you are free, no name they throw at you can hold. History will not call you rebel. It will call you brave. Her eyes caught the light like polished stone. You think you are small, she said. So was I. You think your voice is quiet. So was mine. Yet here I stand. Not because I was mighty, but because I refused to stop. You do not have to be mighty to change the world. You only have to keep walking, even when you walk alone. The room seemed to hum with her words. When you find your freedom, do not keep it, she said. Spend it. Spend it like I did until the world is rich with it. Spend it until no one is poor in hope. Spend it until the darkness has nowhere left to hide. That is how you honor it. Freedom is not something you own. It is something you pass on. She stepped closer, her voice dropping low like a secret passed from soul to soul. When they write your name in the books of tomorrow, let it be said that you rose, that you reached back, that you carried the torch farther than I could, that you made the road to freedom wider and brighter for those who will follow. That is how you change the world. Her voice trembled now like the last note of a song, but her spirit stood unbroken. I did not live so you could admire me, she said. I lived so you could continue. I brought us out of the dark. You must lead us into the dawn. The future is not waiting for permission, it is waiting for you. She raised her head, and her words rose with her like wings. Rise like the sun that no master can command. Rise like the river that carves stone. Rise like the hope that outlives fear. Rise and be free. Because freedom is your birthright, and no one can take it from you. She let the silence swell one last time, and then she said softly, "If you have heard me tonight, then you are part of this story now. You are the keeper of the flame. Guard it, feed it, pass it on, until the day comes when no soul is born in chains." The applause came like thunder shaking the walls as Harriet Tubman stood small and unshaken at its center. A woman who had walked through darkness to bring others into the light. A woman who had spoken and left the world forever changed.